Yo, what's up everyone? Daniel Yuck here. Thank you all for tuning in today. I appreciate it. Today I want to go ahead and I want to bring you an in-depth review on the Intenze Formula 23 Precision Tattoo Formula Ink. As you all can see right here, that's what the bottle states. Intenze Formula 23 Original. It's Precision Tattoo Formula is what it states on the bottle. The bottle is fairly simple, very straightforward. There's not much happening on the bottle, but the real diamonds are inside. Now, upon shaking it, it definitely doesn't feel as thick as the Intenze Super Black, but we can't compare the Super Black to the 23. So I had made a review on the Intenze Super Black, and people were saying that it's not a lining ink, and technically on Intenze, the Super Black isn't promoted as a lining ink. However, this one right here is more for lining, let's say custom lettering. It's going to be for shading, it's going to be for lining and stuff like that, as the flow of this ink is a lot more consistent as opposed to the Super Black. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Super Black. I myself can personally line with the Super Black. I've never had any problems lining with the Super Black. It also heals very, very nice. However, the major issue that I always experienced with the Super Black was that every time I dipped my needles, since the configuration was so small and the ink was so dense, it would tend to get clogged if you didn't like hit it with water or some alcohol or something like that. So it'll get clogged very, very quickly, and that's not something that I want to experience upon tattooing. So what I'm going to use the Super Black for now is I'm going to switch over to the Super Black for like blacking out, for even shading, as I can use it for a gray wash if I like to. But even then, I'm going to use this to make gray washes now as opposed to the Super Black, because the Super Black is that dense. I don't want to have needle issues every tattoo, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and really look into upon using the Formula 23 on this video. We're going to go ahead and do what we usually do. We're going to pour the ink up close. We're going to look at the consistency and all of that, the full 9 on this video here for you all. Now, again, though, so the Super Black, again, it wasn't bad, but I did experience that clogging with the smaller needle configurations and quite often. Now, what I want to do is we're going to also be doing this tattoo right here as well. So I'm going to probably be using anywhere from a 9 to 11 round liner with a tight 3 round liner, so we can throw some stipples in there as well, some dot work, and we can kind of really put this ink up to the test here soon. But nonetheless, that's basically where we are at with the Super Black. Some people can line with it, some people can't. But in terms of like application, I can now see and I feel that Super Black would be more for like bolding out. Let's say if you're gonna do Japanese style work where it requires really dark black saturated areas, just full on black, then Super Black is definitely gonna be my go-to. And let's say if I'm going to be doing lettering or tattoos with a lot of dense lining, which is 90, all of my tattooing, it consists of like really dense, heavy lining. If you've seen some of my tattoos, you can check out some images in the community area of my YouTube channel as well for more information on that. So yeah, majority of my tattoos consist of lining, and even I'd like to approach shading with like a stipple approach, do that pepper like dot shading. I like to like layer my dots to give that sort of textured effect as well in my tattoos. And that's what I'm going to use this ink for. I'm going to use this ink specifically for lining, for lettering, stipple shading, and dot work, stuff like that. This is going to be my go-to. Again, blacking out, packing black is going to be my Super Black, and those are going to be my inks of choice. Color right now, I'm working with Radiant. The colors are vibrant. I love those, so I'm going to be working with Radiant right now at the moment. That may change in the future. Again, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you guys can follow along on my journey with me. But I think that I talked enough about my situation with the Super Black and the Formula 23. I love both of the inks. Both of the inks are great, and I kind of feel, again, that's going to vary from person to person. You may like it for this, you may hate it for that. But nonetheless, you all can hear it. I'm excited to pour it up. I have a saran wrap over it. I'm going to go ahead and put it into a clean Ziploc, or not put it into, but cover it with a Ziploc. That's just how I like to approach my inks. I'm going to go ahead and grab a clean napkin as well, and then we're going to go ahead and open this up and pour it in the caps up close and personal for you all, so we can get a good look at the consistency of this ink right here. Okay, so we have a shop wipe here. I'm going to go ahead and shake it up just a little bit more. It's a lot of ink. It's a heavy bottle. I'm going to go ahead and open the cap here. And that's what the cap looks like, as you all can see. I'll go ahead and unscrew it, pull it up. We're gonna go ahead and pour it out up close so that way we can get a good idea of the consistency of the Formula 23 Intenze ink here. It definitely does seem like it's a bit more runny. It definitely does seem like it flows, as you all can see. I have to be careful because I may end up overfilling up. As you all can see, it's running down the side right there, spilled down that way. I'm trying to do this through my phone screen, which is probably not ideal to make sure that I don't go off camera. However, let me stabilize a bit more so we can pour this up a bit better. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this again without failing. Now, I find that if you don't squeeze it, the ink is so flowy that it actually flows off of the needle head right there is basically what's happening. That's not to say that it's bad, but that definitely does what they claim. The ink is supposed to flow as they stated. So as you all can see, it's definitely doing that. I'm gonna go ahead and place that down here, and I'm actually going to close this and clean this up a bit. As you all can see, the ink is very, very dense, so I'm wiping and it just doesn't come off of the glove. So that's a good sign. Let me go ahead and actually clean my bottle. I may just end up getting some alcohol wipes so that way I can go ahead and wipe the nozzle right here to clean up any excess ink that may exist there. So that's basically the consistency. What we're gonna have to do is we're gonna come to a side view so I can show you all exactly what's happening. Let's go ahead and do that here. So as you can see right here, the nozzle tip is closed. When I had poured out the ink that resulted in this mess right here, the nozzle was completely open. That's not how you want to approach it. I'm gonna go ahead and show you a more controlled way to pour out the ink into your smaller ink caps like these right here. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you a way to do that with a little bit more precision. Now, to pour the ink in a more controlled manner, I went ahead and I opened my cap up around that much, as you can see, and this would allow me to actually squeeze the ink out as I needed. I don't want the ink to flow out as you saw, as it created that. This ink definitely does flow. I've noticed even when I close the cap, the black will flow out from the sides right here as well. So the ink definitely does flow. They claim that the ink is going to be easy to wipe. So I'm looking forward to actually trying out this ink as well. Let's go ahead and pour it out here, and let's pour it out in a more controlled manner. So as you can see, I tipped the bottle over and the drops come straight out. So if I was trying to make a gray wash, this would be perfect for that. If I hold it this way, nothing's gonna come out. So I have to tip the bottle for it to actually start coming out. If I squeeze it, it comes out a little bit more. And that's how I'm going to pour out the ink in a more controlled manner, as opposed to fully opening the cap up and allowing the ink just to flow out as it pleases. If you do that, then you're going to run through ink and it's definitely going to be messy. Let me actually go ahead and close the ink cap up here for you all, and I want to show you how the ink right here around the rim comes out. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe it clean. And as you all can see, there's excess ink coming out from the actual rim right here. So the ink is definitely flowing, and that's the point that I'm trying to make by showing you all that the ink definitely does flow. So if you're going to be using this ink, just be aware of that. If you're looking for an ink that'll be good for a gray wash, or ink that's supposedly easy to lift upon tattooing, meaning when you pull a line and then you clear the, or you remove the excess ink. Yeah, so for those who are looking into new inks and are possibly considering the Intenze Formula 23, just be aware that this ink is definitely what they state. As far as consistency and what I've seen, it definitely does flow. When I tip the bottle like this, the ink literally flowed on the side of the tip here and spilled out everywhere. It didn't go into the cap. So I showed you all how to pour it out in a more controlled manner, and that's the approach that I'm going to take each and every time. I'm glad that we made that mess here together on video. Subscribe for that, ring that bell for more videos like this. Now again, back to the Intenze Formula 23, be aware that it is going to flow, and which my personal opinion, I love that. I can just simply get an alcohol wipe if my gloves get dirty and wipe the whole bottle down, good to go again. But yeah, nonetheless, I wanted to go ahead and show you all the consistency. There you all have it. That is the consistency up close and personal. Definitely is a lot of ink in this bottle right here. I will leave links in the description below for you, so you can go ahead and pick up a bottle on your end. So we're going to go ahead and get into tattooing. We're going to go ahead and pull some lines, and we're going to do some soft shading per usual. And we're going to go ahead and actually put this tattooing ink up to the test. We're going to see how it performs. So let's go ahead and do so. Okay, so we're going to be doing this tattoo that's like, I would say, mandala-ish type tattoo. It is definitely fine lines. I can throw some shading in there as well in certain parts to make it look nice. I do have an assortment of needles here. These are going to be Stigma, these are going to be Rain. I am using the CNC Q2 along with the WX2 wireless power supply. This is again the CNC Q2 tattoo machine. I do have in-depth reviews on all of this equipment here. I will be releasing a Stigma video here shortly as well. I am working on one for these specific needles, but nonetheless I wanted to share the setup. The configuration of needles, this is going to be a bug pin 7-round liner, bug pin 7-round shader. This is going to be a bug pin 11-round shader, a bug pin 11-round liner, and then I have a standard 9-round shader along with a bug pin 3-round liner right here. So this one's going to be for some pepper dot work. The 3-round liner is going to be for the pepper dot work. I'm going to go ahead and use the round shaders and round liners as I see fit. Naturally, I know what I want when I'm doing a tattoo, so I give myself the option to go ahead and have, you know, the option to pick between a shader or a liner, and I naturally just gravitate towards one upon doing each and every tattoo. So that's basically how I find my flow. I give myself the assortment. I do use needles sparingly, as these are one-time disposable needles. I want to make sure that each and every tattoo that I do is the best that it can be for a client. So for me specific, I do give myself a variety here, as you all see. All right, so here we have the Formula 23 Intenze Tattooing Ink. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the tattoo machine on, and we're gonna go ahead and draw some ink into the cartridge together here on camera. So I'm looking through my phone screen, so bear with me here. I'm trying to get the best possible angle for us. So as you all can see, it definitely does flow. As you all can see, it's controlled. Typically some inks would pour out or have a bead right here. As you all can see, the bead is kind of collecting, but if we turn different angles, it doesn't really do anything. So it definitely does flow in terms of pulling in ink here. We can go ahead and pull in more ink should we choose, as you all see there. And it's still not pouring out. I want to go ahead and pull a line here up close while I have you all, so we can see up close how the ink actually flows. So let's go ahead and do a line that's apparent here. We're going to go ahead and just start with this right here. So the ink wasn't too bad. I thought it was going to be a lot more runny than I expected, so that's a good thing. As you all can see, the ink definitely did go in smoothly. It definitely is saturating in the skin, as you all can see. So what I want to go ahead and do is I want to put the phone back up there so that way I can pull some lines, and then I can go ahead and give you a more honest opinion real time. All right, so let's go ahead and pull a bit more lines now that I have both of my hands, and I can, you know, really give my attention in all or in full to this ink here. Now, right off the bat, one thing I do notice is when I naturally wipe up, the ink does absorb. It does pick up, and it is pretty fluid. It is pretty smooth is basically what I'm trying to say. Now right now I am using the bug pin 7-round liner. However, for this specific needle configuration for the outer rim of this, I kind of feel that we should probably go a little bit bigger in terms of needle configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and probably bump this up to an 11-round liner. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to see how the ink pushes with an 11-round liner as well. Now this is going to be a bug pin 11-round liner from Stigma. I will leave links in the description below for this gear for you. Pulled in easily. See, so that looks a lot more appropriate for this specific tattoo. I like the way the Formula 23 performs. Right now I can't really pass a genuine and a full opinion, as I literally just started using the ink. But as of right now, it's treating me kindly. It's definitely looking saturated. It's looking dark, as you all can see, and it's definitely pulling its own weight right now. We're gonna go ahead and proceed. We're gonna switch over to a time lapse here shortly, and then we can go ahead and give you a better opinion here at the end of this tattoo, so that way you guys can actually pass judgment for yourself. Now, what I do want to point out is that it's not too runny. It's not overly consistent to where it feels like it's water or like it's not gonna, you know, hold into a nice tattoo. It's definitely gonna hold its ground, and that's gonna come down to technicality, like how the tattooist specific applies the ink to the skin. Silicone is a lot more difficult to work with over regular human skin. But for me, since I like to use these skins as presentations, I like for my work to be pristine, or as best as I can get it, so to speak. And one thing that I'm noticing too is when I start pulling lines, the ink doesn't like over pool. I'm not sure if you can actually see that, but the ink doesn't like pour out and blob out or anything like that. It does have some excess ink right here in which you can dab on a real tattoo and that's it, keep moving on. But on the practice skin, as you can see, it's definitely saturated. It's definitely looking good. I'm getting the hang of this specific ink right here and how it flows and whatnot. Within 10 to 15 minutes, I'll be familiar with it. By the end of this tattoo, I'll be able to give you all my honest opinion. So let's go ahead and let's switch over to a time-lapse mode here, so that way we can go ahead and proceed, and we can go ahead and look at this tattoo here when we're done. And then if I have any points that I want to touch on upon doing this tattoo, we'll just go ahead and come back to video format and talk about it then. So let's go ahead and switch over to a time-lapse. One thing that I wanted to point out that I'm noticing upon doing this tattoo is when I have to go back and dip for more ink, I notice that my cartridge, I can actually still see my needle, which tells me that the ink is not so dense. So chances of me experiencing some sort of clog because of my ink due to, I guess, density, I don't feel that's going to happen with the Formula 23. Again, as every time I have to go back and dip, it seems as though all the ink flows out onto the canvas. And I just wanted to go ahead and point that out as well. I am loving the way that the Formula 23 is performing. Let's go ahead and switch back to a time-lapse mode and get this tattoo done so I can give you all a final opinion at the end of this tattoo. Okay, so as you all can see, this is how far we got into the tattoo, and I just wanted to stop and say my opinion right here on the ink so far. I haven't gotten to shading so much yet, but just more so lining. And just from lining alone, this is now, the Formula 23 ink is now my go-to ink upon lining. Again, we haven't gotten to shading yet. We filled in a little bit of black here where we packed some black. I do love it for packing black. I do absolutely love it for pulling lines. It wasn't like when I started pulling lines, the ink didn't pour out or pull out or really dirty my canvas. Absorbing the ink with some napkins is a swift. It's not too hard at all. It does exactly what they claim it does. But me personally, I just love the consistency and I love the feel of this ink, and it definitely does look great. I just wanted to go ahead and come over here to the side out of the time lapse and kind of show you all where we're at right now, what I think about it so far. So far, I definitely do give the Formula 23 a thumbs up. Let's go ahead and continue this tattoo. Alright, so the tattoo is now completed, as you all can see right here, and it is now done. I can go ahead and give you all my honest opinion on the Formula 23. In terms of performance, I love the performance. It definitely performs great. The fluid consistency was consistent throughout the entire tattoo process. And the ink was very, very easy to work with. It was very, I guess the consistency provided me with an easier workflow. I'm a personal fan of Formula 23. This is now my go-to ink for lining, my go-to ink for like soft pepper shading for dot work. My go-to ink for long tattoo sessions is going to be the Formula 23. As you all can see, the tattoo came out great. I love the way this tattoo came out. And I also have a cap right here. We are actually 24 hours later here, and I wanted to go ahead and wait 24 hours just to go ahead and see how the ink dries up or what happens to it, you know, when we leave it out. Not that this is of actual any relevance to the actual tattooing process. However, for the sake of this demonstration, I'm trying to go ahead and shed some light on some points here. So 24 hours later, and as you all can see right here, the ink is still wet. It's the same consistency as when I poured it yesterday, so that's a good thing. So let's say if you're going to be running long extensive hours, long tattoo sessions, let's say you're going to do a back piece in a day or outline an entire back piece or whatever it is that you may be doing, if it's going to be a long session, the Formula 23 is definitely an ink to go ahead and consider using. As you can see right here, it doesn't dry out. Again, we are 24 hours later and it's still the same consistency as when I poured it yesterday. And it's not just one cap, it was both of the caps that I was using. The first one I pretty much got all the way through it. But as you all can see, this is 24 hours later and the ink is definitely still moist. It's definitely not dried, and I didn't experience any clogging whatsoever like I have in the past with a couple of other inks. I didn't experience any clogs at all with my needles, and I was using a smaller configuration, as you all can see, for the dots and for the soft shading. So there you all have it. Everything went smooth, no clogs. I personally love Formula 23. Yet again, this is now my go-to ink upon tattooing. If you're not, be sure to give me a follow on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, as I do have social media all under the same name at Daniel Yuck, DanielYuck. I would genuinely appreciate your support on there as well. I appreciate you tuning in this long. Y'all have a great day.